In today's crazy market, you need to position yourself in the best possible way in order for you to maximize your chances at securing that property. What's going on, friends? Matt Carter here. Just coming at you today with a video that I feel like is pretty applicable for the market and the situation that we are in currently in 2021. It is a buyer's market, not only in London, Ontario, not only in Ontario in general, but all across North America. So in this video, I'm going to go over a bunch of different ways that you can use to maximize your chances in order to secure that property that you are looking for. So before I get started, if you could do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to my videos, and make sure you get notified. Helps me out with the YouTube, helps me out with the algorithm, and allows me to reach more people like yourself who can benefit from these videos. So first one we have on the list, and I've talked about this multiple times in a lot of my other videos, is getting pre-approved. There's no point in going to look at homes unless you know exactly what they're going to lend you and where your budget stands and what you can afford to spend. So before you even talk to a realtor, before you even set up any appointments to go and look at houses, make sure that you have talked to your bank or a mortgage specialist and make sure you know how much they're going to give you so you know where to start your search. If you're submitting offers on houses before being pre-approved, you have no idea where you stand and what the bank is actually going to lend you at the end of the day. So essentially, it's just a crapshoot when you go and put that offer in, and then the seller on the other side is taking a risk on holding up their property for sale and waiting on what the bank is eventually going to lend you to see if the offer actually firms up. So make sure you've been to the bank, be pre-approved, know what your spending limit is, and then once you go to make that offer, potentially you can remove that mortgage qualification condition from your offer, making it a firm offer, and just overall increasing your chances of getting that property. All right, number 2 on the list, and it kind of seems like a no-brainer, but it's going in with a strong price. At the end of the day, money talks, and the person with the highest offer is generally going to win in a multiple offer situation. Now, I'll go over some other things we can talk about in order to strengthen your offer aside from money, but first and foremost, it's the number one thing that sellers are going to be looking for when they're reviewing all those offers. So make sure that you're up there and at least being competitive with other offers that are going to be presented in a multiple offer situation. Okay, going down the list, and this one kind of ties into the first one of being pre-approved, and it's going in firm with no conditions. Now, I know this kind of sounds scary because it does increase your risk with other things down the line, but in this market, when there's tons of people that are offering on properties, you have to do everything you can in order to better your offer. Waiving conditions such as selling your current home, having an inspection done, as well as the mortgage qualification that we spoke about before, can all increase your chances at getting that property once you're up against a ton of other people. Now, I don't want to advise everybody just to waive all their conditions. You need to do your own research and talk with your realtor going into it to make sure you have everything lined up and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a risky situation. All right, next thing on the list, and we're getting into some of these options now that don't actually include increasing your offer price or decreasing your conditions, anything in the written offer, but actually increasing the amount of deposit that you put down on that home. So with every offer that you submit, you're going to have to state how much deposit, earnest money deposit, you are going to put down against that home if your offer is accepted. Generally speaking, in the London market, we're anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for a deposit, which will down the road eventually go into your down payment for the home. If you're not exactly sure how the money flows through a deal, make sure you watch my video on how to buy a home and all the associated closing costs with buying a house in Ontario. So by increasing your deposit, it essentially shows the seller how committed you are to going forward with that deal. For example, if you put down a really weak deposit, such as $1,000, that's only $1,000 you've sunk into that deal, and you could potentially back out at any point and only lose $1,000. Now, if you've put $20,000 deposit down and you decide to back out of the deal, well, you're not getting that $20,000 back, and the seller just gets to keep that money. So ultimately, at the end of the day, your deposit is going towards your down payment. So if you can afford to put up a little bit more on the deposit now, it might save you and strengthen your offer in the long run. Moving on down the list, the next one I have is choosing the preferred closing date for the seller. Now, this information is usually pretty readily available, and the sellers will disclose it in the listing. But what you want to do is make sure that you hit or as close as possible to hitting that preferred date for them in order to line up their move. Now, you may have different timelines and you might have to get creative in terms of where you need to stay if there is an overlap or other creative situations, but by lining up with the seller's preferred date as close as possible, you're going to maximize your chances of getting that property. All right, next up, and this one's kind of controversial in terms of what agents think, is actually including a letter, a handwritten letter from the buyers to the sellers. Now, a lot of people think this is kind of corny and is just trying to pull on the heartstrings of the sellers, and in all honesty, it is. But a lot of the time, the sellers that you're working with are going to be people who are going to put more value in terms of who is buying the home as opposed to the actual overall price. A lot of agents will tell you it doesn't matter what the letter says, it doesn't matter about that, but I've seen on multiple occasions, I've had it happen to multiple clients of mine on the buyer side where including that letter and actually explaining who the buyers are, why they want the house, and what they're planning on doing in the future has impacted their offer and ultimately gotten them that house. At the end of the day, I'm not sure if it's going to save you a $10,000 difference in offer price, but if it's a couple $1,000s or a couple $100s at the end of the day, it might be the tipping point. All right, second to last on our list is taking advantage of when offers are actually being reviewed. Now, a lot of the times, this is also included in the listing details and your agent can tell you, but sometimes people wait till a specific date in order to review offers. Others will just accept them at any point in time along the road. So this is why it's so important that you're working with a realtor who's sending you listings and reviewing every listing that is going to you to make sure that you're going to see that house as soon as possible when it hits the market. I've seen houses last less than a day on the market and they're scooped up by somebody who saw it as soon as it came out and they offered later that day, eliminating all the possibility of other agents and buyers seeing that house before they've even offered on the property. Now, this isn't the case all the time because we're in such a hot market. A lot of people are waiting until a specific date in order to review those offers, but if you can find one that isn't reviewing offers in a certain date down the line, you may have the opportunity to submit an offer ahead of time as soon as it hits the market and scoop it up before anybody gets to see it. All right, so the last one we have on the list is trying to include items in the house that aren't actually included within the listing. What that means is, generally speaking, appliances are included with a house. A lot of people don't like to take their fridges, their stoves, anything like that to their new house because they already have those appliances waiting for them. Sometimes they do, but if you see in the listing that something is not included, and it may be one of those big appliances, or it might be something else like a hot tub or a fire table, something of that sort. If you're in a multiple offer situation and you really like that item, but the seller is saying that they're not selling it with the house, don't try to include that within your offer. This will only put you at a disadvantage, and a lot of the time the deal then becomes about that item or that appliance rather than the purchase of the actual home in itself. At the end of the day, if you really like that one specific item, you can go and buy it afterwards, or you can try to negotiate that with the seller after your offer has been accepted. All right, everybody, that wraps it up for today. I hope you can use some of these strategies in order to get the best possible chance of finding a home in this crazy seller's market that we're in. If you found this content valuable, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and get notified. Make sure you let anybody know that is in the position to buy a home to watch this video to make sure that they have the best opportunity in order to get that dream house.